Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. If you haven't been to my channel before, my name's Josh, and what I like to talk about is all things really relating to Advaita, non-duality, the pathway of devotional non-duality, and Jnana Yoga, which is the pathway of self-knowledge. So in today's video, what I want to sort of address is how to dissolve form into formlessness, because all the great teachers talk about our reality as being pure formless consciousness, and what we complain about is the constant form that we sort of deal with and struggle with. You know, we struggle with people, we struggle with attitudes, behaviors of others, we struggle with our own thinkingness and this incessant thought that is constantly sort of bombarding our consciousness, the endless stories that we tell ourselves, this endless stream of consciousness, and all of our negative feelings. So I want to sort of address how to dissolve this form that we complain about and dissolve it into formlessness, and to realize sort of the substrate of consciousness, that which we truly are is this pure formless awareness, and how this pure formless awareness is constantly present. So I feel like just from all that I observe and notice, there's still a lot of misconception around what is surrender, what is letting go, and how can we release all these endless feelings and thoughts and stories. So one technique that I use a lot is the Sedona method, which I mentioned in my last video. And there's two techniques, actually three techniques, when it comes to the Sedona method that I find very helpful for handling unwanted thoughts and feelings within myself. One is what the Sedona method calls holistic releasing, where what you do is you allow yourself to feel as negative as you do. Now, could you allow yourself to feel even more negative? And could you allow yourself to feel even more negative? And then after you allow yourself to feel more negative for a few moments, you completely switch to the positive and say, now could I be open to being positive as best I can? And could I be even more open to being positive as best I can? And you start welcoming what it feels like to be positive. And after you welcome what it feels like to be positive for a few moments, then you switch back to the feeling of, could I allow myself to feel as negative as I do in this moment? And as you toggle back and forth between the negative and the positive, they collapse, and you're left with a feeling of peace and serenity and equanimity. So this is a great technique that I use when it comes to feeling like sort of like a minor depression or unhappiness. Could I allow myself to feel as unhappy as I do? Could I allow myself to feel as unhappy as I do? And you keep repeating that, and then you switch gears. Now, just for now, could I allow myself to rest as the happiness that I am? And then I welcome the feeling of what it feels like to be happy. And then again, the two collapse, and you're left with a feeling of serenity, equanimity, and peacefulness. So this is a great technique to dissolve form into the formless. And then there's another technique the Sedona method mentions, and it's called the fifth way. So in the fifth way of releasing, what you're doing is you're sort of welcoming all the sounds and sensations of the room, wherever you seem to be standing in the moment. So if you're at home and you're sitting in your living room, you know, could you allow the sound of the TV to be present? Could you allow all the sounds of the birds to be present? Could you let go of resisting all sound and form in the room? Could you let go of resisting your bodily sensations? Could you let go of resisting whatever discomfort you may feel in your elbow or your arm or your legs? Could you let go of wanting to change or control the sound of the drill outside your window? You know, if people are working or hammering away, could you let go of resisting all those sounds? And as you constantly let go of resisting all sounds and all sensation, you switch gears and you ask yourself, now what is actually here now? What is actually here now? And by letting go of resisting all sounds and sensations and posing that question to yourself, it's like some aspect of your consciousness begins to intuit that there's an infinite silent awareness that is a priori to all sound, all form, all sensation. And you begin to sense this infinite formless space, which is not different than the self with a capital S. So this is a great technique that I use when I'm at work, you know, I'm working and all the sounds and form is going on, and you're aware of all this form, all this sound, all these sensations, and I sort of like shift my mental gaze and look past it all, look beyond it all. And underneath all this form, sensation, and sound, there is this infinite space that is invisible, silent, and has no form. So that's a great technique. And then there's another technique that I use called triple welcoming, which is also mentioned from the Sedona method. And with the triple welcoming technique, what they teach is whatever feeling that you have in this moment, could you just allow that feeling to be here? And could you just allow that feeling to be here even more? And could you allow this feeling to be here even more? And as you keep letting go of resisting this feeling, then you dig a little deeper and you find if this feeling is coming from wanting control, wanting security, wanting separation, or wanting approval. And whatever want that's coming from, could you let go of wanting security? Could you let go of wanting approval? Could you let go of wanting control? And then after you do that for a few moments, you welcome any sensation or feeling that this problem that you're struggling with is personal. And could you really welcome that feeling of how personal this problem feels? And then as you welcome that feeling that it feels personal, you let go of resisting that, and then that dissolves. And then you're sort of left with this feeling of peace and serenity and equanimity. And again, you become increasingly more aware of the infinite silent space that lies underneath all problems, that lies underneath all thinkingness, that lies underneath all sensation, all form, all feelings. And, you know, by using these surrender techniques, you're progressively dissolving form into formlessness. And it helps one become more aware that there's really nobody here, that underneath this personal story, there is just an infinite silent awareness that has no identity. There is no personal self in that space. And eventually, as problems dissolve, as thinkingness falls away, as stories and sensations fall away, you could sort of stay and keep your focus of attention, your mental gaze, anchored in this formless, invisible substrate. And as you keep your focus of awareness anchored in that space, everything is just happening spontaneously around oneself, and you're merely just the witness of all form, all sensation, and everything that is perceived in this world. So these are great techniques that I use to help dissolve form into formlessness. And just to expand on what I've been sharing in this brief video, there's a quote out of Dr. David Hawkins' book called I, Reality and Subjectivity. And the quote is, "Ask, how am I aware or even know that I exist? That question is the best that can be acted upon, for it leads directly and non-verbally to the ever-present reality. Identify with that quality, capacity, or condition of ever-present subjectivity, which is experienced as an underlying awareness. It is consciousness itself. Identify with that consciousness instead of the what that it is conscious about. That is the direct route to the self with a capital S. It is actually the only practice that leads directly through the doorway. There is nothing to know, to learn, or to remember. It is merely necessary to focus, fixate, meditate, contemplate, look at, and realize that the substrate and source of existence is the radical subjectivity of the presence of God as the light of consciousness. Subjectivity devoid of content, subject-object illusion, is the self with a capital S. The subjective I of the self with a capital S is independent of content or form, beyond all thought or concepts. It is not feelings or thoughts that are important, but only the subjectivity that underlies their seeming importance." So that's like, that quote is like really right up the same alley of what I've been discussing. You know, as you let go of resisting these problems, you let go of resisting these stories, you let go of resisting all these unwanted feelings, and as you keep letting go, resisting all these things, your awareness becomes pulled towards that infinite silent space. which is not different than the self with a capital S. And as you keep your focus of attention anchored in that space, you know, like right now, I'm anchoring my attention in that space. And you could sense how it's invisible, it's formless. And as your practice with it gets more mature and deeper, you begin to sense that there's really nothing happening in that space. It's a space of non-happening. It's quiet. It's not hearing anything. It's not saying anything. It's not deciding anything. It's just in a constant state of, you could say isness, but I guess it's even beyond isness, because isness would be another concept in this in this realm. The infinite potentiality. There is no form or concepts there. So try playing with these practices and let me know what you think. And if you want me to expand on any of the practices that I just shared in this video, let me know, and I'll be happy to post another video how to utilize this technique to different emotions or unwanted feelings or more specific problems. So anyways, thanks for listening, guys. Have a good day.